We are ready?
Yes, we're good to go.
All right. I will call this meeting of the Yankton City Planning Commission to order. It's 5:33 p.m. on Monday, August 10th, 2020. Let's start with a roll call, please.
Erickson.
Erickson, here.
Healy.
Healy, here.
Beck.
Beck, here.
View.
View, here.
Mooney.
Mooney, here.
Peterson.
Peterson here.
City Commission Liaison Sarda.
Sarda, here.
Chairman Peer.
Chairman Peer, here.
Okay. Also noted in the meeting minutes, joining from the public, we have Ryan Streff of Powder River Development, and joining momentarily, ETJ member Dean Christensen.
Moose is here.
We also have ETJ member Welch in the audience, correct?
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Okay, there being a quorum to go forward with business. The first item is under routine business is the consideration of the July 13, 2020 meeting minutes, which were sent to everyone. So, is there a motion to approve, or are there any corrections to those minutes as they've been submitted?
We'll move to approve. View.
I'll second it.
Brooke, are you picking up who makes these motions and seconds?
I sure am.
Okay. There being a motion and second to approve the minutes, guess we have to go by roll call on approving those minutes because of the format we're using now.
Okay. Sure. Healy.
Healy, aye.
Ely, aye. Specht.
Specht, aye.
Specht, aye. View.
View, aye.
View, aye. Mooney.
Mooney, aye.
Mooney, aye. Peterson.
Peterson, aye.
Peterson, aye. Erickson.
Erickson, aye.
Erickson, aye. And Chairman Peer.
Your aye.
Peer, aye.
Okay, that motion having carried and those minutes being approved, we'll move on to public appearances and introduction. And it's already been noted that I'm sorry, I forgot the name, from Powder River is part of this meeting.
Ryan
Streff.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else in the room where we normally hold our meetings that we need to make sure we have on record? Good, thank you. So, well, I guess, Mr. Mingo, you'll have to help me out here a little bit, but when we get to items that our public wants to comment on, my understanding, we'll pause and allow you or Dwayne to look and see if anybody has any comments they need to make. Is that how we do this?
Yeah, when we go to public comments, you can ask for, after commission comments, ask for public comments from the audience in attendance, if there is any, which it doesn't appear there are. The audience attending via technology, which would be Mr. Strife from Powder River, appears to be the only one. And then whether or not there are any YouTube chat comments, and I'm monitoring that. I can tell you very quickly whether there are or not.
Okay, thank you. And then I have one more question for you, Dave. The consent items that are on our agenda, of which there are 3, do we need to have separate motions for each one of those, or can we join those all in one motion?
As much as I wish we could do them all at one time, legal counsel has advised us they have to be separate based on this meeting format.
Okay, so here we go with consent item number 1, to establish the next regular meeting as a date for a public hearing to consider a rezoning from I-1 Industrial to B3 Central Business on Block 69, Lower Yankton, addition to the city of Yankton, South Dakota. Drotzman Construction, LLC, the owner. Address, the south side of the 600 block of East 4th Street. So we would entertain a motion and second to establish that date for that consent item.
Tony will make a motion to approve the consent item as presented.
Healy, second.
Motion and second to approve that consent item. We will need a roll call on this, please.
Specht.
Specht, abstain.
Specht abstained. View.
View, aye.
View, aye. Mooney.
Mooney, aye.
Mooney, aye. Peterson.
Peterson, aye.
Peterson, aye. Erickson.
Erickson, aye.
Erickson, aye. Healy.
Healy, aye.
Healy, aye. And Peer.
Peer, aye.
Peer, aye.
Okay, so that consent item is now set for public hearing at next meeting. Okay, consent item number 2, establish the next regular meeting as the date for a public hearing to consider conditional use permit for self-storage facility in a B2 highway business on outlots 19A, 20, and 20A, Modregger outlots in the city of Yankton, South Dakota. Michael Hatchesky, owner, address 803 Fertig Avenue. We need a motion and second on this item.
Erickson moves to accept the conditional use permit on the date for the public hearing as presented.
Peterson,
second.
Okay, moved and seconded to establish that date. Roll call, please.
View.
View, aye.
View, aye. Mooney.
Mooney, aye.
Mooney, aye. Peterson.
Peterson, aye.
Peterson, aye. Erickson.
Erickson, aye.
Erickson, aye. Healy.
Healy, aye.
Healy, aye. Specht.
Specht, aye.
Specht, aye. And Peer.
Peer, aye.
Peer, aye.
The motion's carried, so that's a consent item is scheduled for the next regular meeting. Moving on to consent item number 3, establish the next regular meeting as the date for a public hearing to consider a rezoning from B2 highway business to R4 multiple family residential and R2 single family residential on that portion of the following property lying south of 25th Street. The east half of the southeast quarter except the east 700 feet in section 2 and the 23rd Street and West City Limits Road right-of-way adjacent to the described property and extending east to the current City of Yankton corporate limits, Pren's right-of-way located in sections 2, 11, and 12, in Pren's, all in Township 93 North, Range 56 West of the 5th Principal Meridian, Yankton County, South Dakota. Yankton Development Enterprises, LLC, Kelly Nielsen, President, owner, location, southern part of Phase 2, Westbrook Estates. We need a motion and second on establishing that date.
I'll move to establish that date. View.
Erickson, second.
Motion made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Mooney.
Mooney, aye.
Mooney, aye. Peterson.
Peterson, aye.
Peterson, aye. Erickson.
Erickson, aye.
Erickson, aye. Healy.
Healy, aye.
Healy, aye. Specht.
Specht, aye.
Specht, aye. View.
View. Aye.
View, aye. And Pierre.
Here, aye.
Pierre, aye.
That date has been set for, is it on the consent item for that hearing, their next meeting.
For the minutes, if I may, ETJ member Christensen has now joined us via phone.
Noted. Thank you.
So can we move on to the next action item without him?
No, he is with us. So he's here for item 1 of old business right now. He's in attendance.
Okay, I misunderstood.
Yep.
Okay, let's move to old business. First action item, that this is the time and place for a public hearing to consider an extraterritorial jurisdiction conditional use permit for additional height on a tower on the east half of the southeast quarter, section 11, township 93 north, range 56 west of the 5th prime meridian, Yankton County, South Dakota. Powder River Development Services, LLC, applicant, address 2000 South Dakota Highway 314. And you have information from staff regarding this conditional use permit. I will, Dave Mingo, do you have anything to add or any explanation for the commission on this?
Just a couple of real brief comments. It's consideration of this to me supports our position on promoting co-location of multiple providers at single locations. Additional height on this tower will allow for that possibility, and it also reduces the possibility that we would see a request for a separate tower at a nearby location. So in many ways, this meets our goals for keeping the number of large towers of this type at a minimum around our community. We all know technology is changing, and many of these services will be provided via more smaller cells or, who knows, satellites or something at some point in time. So staff would recommend approval of a 20-foot addition, a conditional use permit for a 20-foot addition on the existing 300-foot tower. And as discussed earlier, Ryan Strife from Powder River is also in attendance in this go-to meeting.
Okay, first I would ask if anyone on the commission has any comments or questions that they want to raise for staff or on this particular conditional use permit. Having heard none, I guess, Mr. Strapp, do you have anything you wish to add to your application or for the conditional use permit?
Yeah, Chair and Commissioners, again, Ryan Strapp with Powder River Development, and I'm here on behalf of Black & Veatch and AT&T Mobility requesting this tower extension and carrier co-location at the base of the tower as well. Just noting, again, where I've been working with Dave Mingo and his staff, and just kind of wanted to note that our tower extension, the existing height of the of what we consider the tower itself, the steel. The existing height of that tower is 300 feet. So we're proposing a 20-foot extension to make the steel 320 feet. I just wanted to note that there is, a lightning rod that's on top of the tower. With the lightning rod, the overall height of the tower is approximately 330 feet because so there'd be the 20-foot extension with the 10-foot lightning rod on top. Also noting that the antennas might go, in some cases, above the height of the tower. Our rad with our current carrier is at the top of the 320 feet with that extension. Typically, they're 8-foot antennas, so they would extend to approximately 324 feet, and then the lightning rod would still be above that, another 6 feet or so. And then we have the carrier co-location. There's an expansion at the base of the tower to contain the equipment, cabinets, and technology required to serve the surrounding area and utilized with the radios at the base of the tower.
Chairman Perry, you're muted.
Thank you. Does that prompt any questions from the commission? All right. Are there any comments from the public at this point?
We have no one appearing in the meeting room to comment on this item.
We have no comments via YouTube either.
There are no phone calls nor email comments either. This is Brooke.
Okay, not having received any notice of any other comments, would move forward with a motion on this conditional use permit request.
Erickson moves to accept the conditional use permit of extending the tower as presented.
And a second.
Speck will second.
Thank you. Okay, there's a motion and second on the table to approve the ETJ conditional use permit request from Powder River Development Services, LLC. Let's have a roll call on this matter, please.
So the ETJ roll call. We have Christensen.
Sorry, I was muted. Christensen voted aye.
Aye. Christensen, aye. Welch. Welch, aye. And that's all we need, right, Dave?
No, we need everybody else called.
Everyone else. Okay.
Sure to include those. Yep.
Okay. Peterson.
Peterson, aye.
Peterson, aye. Erickson.
Erickson, aye.
Erickson, aye. Healy.
Healy, aye.
Healy, aye. Specht.
Speck, aye.
Specht, aye. View.
View, aye.
View, aye. And Mooney.
Mooney, aye.
And Peer.
Here, aye.
Peer, aye. And as well as Mooney, aye. Previously.
Okay, that motion has carried, and this will go to the City Commission on August 24th, 2020.
If I may note for the record that ETJ member Christensen is now leaving the meeting.
Okay.
Noted for the minutes. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to this second action item, which is the time and place for a public hearing to consider an amendment to an adjacent conditional use permit for a self-storage facility on the north half of Lot 9, except the south 20 feet, Block 1, Airport Acres Edition, City and County of Yankton, WDM Properties, LLC applicant, address 3010 Piper Street. So, Mr. Mingo, are there anything to add regarding the summary or the request that was included in the packet?
Nothing to add. It's just property to the south of a previously approved permit. And what we need to remember in all of these self-storage facility conditional use permits is the depiction that we see, the lot, the structure layout are representative of what the applicant is intending to do. As long as they meet all the other requirements, of course, some of the dimensions of the buildings or orientation of the buildings could change and still be compliant with the permit and all other ordinance requirements.
Thank you. Any comments or questions by commission members? Hearing none, is there any public comments, or has anybody, contacted staff tonight or at the present time about this agenda item?
We have no one appearing in the meeting room to comment on this item.
Staff has received no contacts, and there are no YouTube contacts either.
There are no phone calls nor emails either.
Is there a motion to regarding this conditional use permit request?
Erickson to accept the conditional use permit as presented.
Is there a second?
Healy, a second.
Do we have a motion and second to approve the conditional use permit request from WDM Properties LLC? A roll call, please.
Erickson.
Erickson, aye.
Erickson, aye. Healy.
Healy, aye.
Healy, aye. Specht.
Speck, aye.
Speck, aye. View.
View, aye.
View, aye. Mooney.
Mooney abstain.
Mooney abstains. Peterson.
Peterson, aye.
Peterson, aye. And Peer.
Here, aye.
Peer, aye.
Okay, motion approving the conditional use permit is passed, and it will go before the City Commission on August 24th, 2020. Okay, we'll move on to the third action item. This is the time and place for a public hearing to consider a rezoning from R2 single-family residential to B2 highway business on the part of the northeast quarter of the Northeast Quarter, Section 2, Township 93 North, Range 56 west of the 5th Prime Meridian, lying northeast of the present right-of-way of the Chicago, Milwaukee, and St. Paul Railroad Company, now known as Chicago, Milwaukee, St. Paul, and Pacific Railroad Company, consisting of a triangular parcel, except Lot H1, as platted in Book S9, page 56, Yankton County, South Dakota, Less Highways and Roads, JTG Properties, LLC. Owner, address 3007 West City Limits Road. Again, you have information from staff in the packet that you should have received. And Mr. Mingo, do you have any further comments or information regarding this rezoning?
Nothing other than this is property that was just annexed by the City Commission 2 weeks ago via owner petition for annexation. That typically happens on adjacent land when there are, development ideas in the works. I won't comment on the next item because it's kind of a follow-up on the same piece of property unless you have specific questions. The items are moving forward concurrently, which means there'll be a delay in the conditional use consideration by the City Commission until they go through an ordinance establishment process also. I'd be happy to try and answer any questions. The adjoining property uses are substantially commercial, and the reason this was a residential remnant was because it dates all the way back to the 1990s when we were working on our ETJ ordinance, and there was a mobile home on this site, if you might remember seeing that part of Yankton back then.
Questions or comments by the commission? Hearing none, are there any public comments?
We have no one in the meeting room appearing on this item.
I have nobody on YouTube live comment on this item.
There have been no phone calls or emails on this item.
Is there a motion and second on this agenda item?
This is Mooney. Mooney makes a motion for approval.
Erickson
Hill,
second.
second.
We have a motion and second to approve the proposed rezoning from JTG Properties LLC owner. Roll call, please.
Keeley.
Healy, aye.
Keeley, aye. Speck.
Speck, aye.
Speck, aye. View.
You, aye.
View, aye. Mooney.
Mooney, aye.
Mooney, aye. Peterson.
Peterson abstain.
Peterson, Erickson.
Erickson, aye.
Erickson, aye. And Pierre.
Pierre abstain.
Pierre abstained.
That matter will go to the, I'm looking here. City Commission establishes September 14th as the date for a public hearing on this. And then it will go to public hearing in front of the City Commission. Okay. So moving on then to action item number 4. This is the time and place for a public hearing to consider a conditional use permit for a self-storage facility in a B2 highway business on that part of the northeast quarter or Section 2, Township 93 North, Range 56 west of the 5th Prime Meridian, lying northeast of the present right-of-way of the Chicago, Milwaukee, and St. Paul Railroad Company, now known as Chicago, Milwaukee, St. Paul, and Pacific Railroad Company, consisting of a triangular parcel accept lot H1 as platted in book S9, page 56, Yankton County, South Dakota, less highways and roads, JTG Properties LLC, owner, address 3007 West City Limits Road. And again, you have the conditional use permit in your packet with information. Mr. Mingo, any comments to, again, connect this to the prior action item?
Sorry, I said I wouldn't comment, but I'm gonna. There's one thing that you should be aware of is that he's trying to have this set up as sort of a flex development project. If it was going to be all commercial occupancies, he wouldn't need a conditional use permit. The reason for the conditional use permit is he's going to gauge the interest in commercial occupancies like contractors or other businesses. And if in the interim there isn't a lot of interest, he wants to be able to use it as a self-storage facility. So it allows him the flexibility of either being able to have it all be self-storage or part of it be self-storage and with a couple of commercial units. Or if it's all commercial units, there would be no need for this permit in this zoning district, if approved.
Any comments from or questions from the commission?
From Spec, I'm curious about accessibility to this triangular. I would assume that probably would be off of West City Limits Road and not Highway 50.
Yeah, that would be correct. It's highly unlikely that the state would permit another access on Highway 50. There is a drive access already onto West City Limits Road. As you know, West City Limits Road is a principal arterial. We'll continue to work with the developer. That drive access is there, so it's pretty difficult to say they can't use it. But if there's a way that their site works better for it to shift south a little ways further away from the intersection, we'd definitely be in favor of that also.
Thank you.
This is you. I'm looking at the map, and that where that little gravel driveway is at, it's kind of not in the best place as far as from what I can see. Could we at least suggest that they move it south so that it's more in alignment with the building that's over on the B2 to get so that we don't have that congested short-term traffic there?
So the Fox Stop does not have a drive access onto West City Limits Road. So the only alignment possibility would be all the way down to 30th Street, which isn't really a possibility for this property because of its awkward shape. We definitely will continue to talk to the property owner about their site plan, and if it works for them to go south a little ways. Again, it's pretty tough when there's a kind of a grandfathered driveway situation to dictate a total transition of it. But yeah, we'll make sure that Adam Haberman and the rest of our traffic engineering crew are involved in site plan review when we get to that point, definitely.
Okay, thank you. Looking at the map, it looked like there's something coming out, but I think it's a sidewalk after I consider it a little bit tighter.
That's correct.
Anybody else have any questions or comments on this request? Are there any public comments noted?
We have no one appearing at the meeting room to comment on this item.
There are no comments on YouTube on this item.
There are no emails or phone calls on this item.
Is there a motion regarding this conditional use permit request?
Erickson moves to accept the conditional use permit as presented.
Mooney seconds that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the conditional use permit request from JTG Properties LLC. Roll call, please.
Speck,
Speck, aye.
Beck, aye. View,
View, aye.
View, aye. Mooney,
Mooney, aye.
Mooney, aye. Peterson,
Peterson abstain.
Peterson abstained. Erickson,
Erickson, aye.
Erickson, aye. Healy,
Healy, aye.
Healy, aye. And Pierre,
Here abstain.
Pierre abstain.
Okay, that motion passed, and it will go to the City Commission on September 14th. Okay, let's move on to new business. The time and place for a plat review of lots 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 in Block 10, Westbrook Estates, in Tract 1 of Law Addition in the southeast quarter of Section 2, Township 93 North, Range 56 West of the 5th Principal Meridian, City of Yankton, Yankton County, South Dakota, Yankton Development Enterprises, LLC, Kelly Nielsen, President, Owner. Address south side of the 1600 block of West 25th Street. You have plat review and attached documents and an explanation from staff. Mr. Mingo, any further information or comments from you?
Nothing in addition to what's in the packet. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, questions or comments from the commission? Okay, hearing none, are there any public comments?
No public comments from the meeting room.
No comments via YouTube.
No email or phone comments on this item.
Being no further comments, is there a motion regarding this item?
Healy would so move.
To approve, I assume?
Peterson
Motion is-
second.
Is there a second? Or did I miss it?
Peterson second.
Motion to approve the plat. It's been made and seconded. Roll call, please.
View,
View, aye.
View, aye. Mooney,
Mooney, aye.
Mooney, aye. Peterson,
Peterson, aye.
Peterson, aye. Erickson,
Erickson, aye.
Erickson, aye. Healy,
Healy, aye.
Healy, aye. And Speck,
Speck, aye.
Speck, aye. And Pierre,
Here, aye.
Pierre, aye.
Is That's been approved. It'll go to the City Commission for their review on August 24th, 2020. All right. We're at other business, which is the July 2020 building permit report, which was included. Mr. Mingo, any comments about this report?
Nothing specific to that report other than 2020 is kind of picking up here. Really pleasantly surprised with how busy the contractors are in our community this year. In fact, we're hearing from most of them that they're booked through 2020 and already partially booked through 2021. So construction activity is moving along at a very fast pace, considering what the economy is going through nationally. I do have comments on two other quick things if I could have the privilege to make them, if that's okay. Chairman Peer, your mic is muted.
Okay. Does the commission have any comments or questions regarding the building permit report? Hearing none, I'll turn it back to you, Dave, to offer the things you wanted to add.
Yep, just two quick things, and they're both just informational. One of them is a good news item about tax increment district number 2. Some of you might remember that have been here as long as I have. Tax increment district number 2 was the Morgan Square tax increment district. And the City Commission on their agenda tonight is going to dissolve that TID because it paid off early. And just for discussion's sake, the power of a tax increment district, the equalized base value when it was created was $271,000. These are rounded numbers. If it would have increased value at the average pace that the rest of the community is increasing, in other words, without a TID, just at a normal growth rate in this community, it would have gone from 271,000 to in 2020 be 638,000. Well, we used a TID as a tool to accelerate that value, and as a result, it's currently valued at 2.4 million. So, the effect on the city, the county, and the school district is pretty tremendous. The city at the beginning was getting $1,100 a year in taxes on it. Now we're getting $10,400 a year. The county was getting $927 in taxes off of it. Now the county's getting $8,300. The school district was getting $2,100 in taxes, and now the school district's getting $19,000. So would it have increased in value without the TID? Yes, but that increase would have been substantially less than what it was able to be with the use of that development tool that we have in our tool chest. So good news on that front. The other thing I wanted to just mention briefly is in the next couple of weeks, we'll be sending out an email to you asking how you want to move forward with our meeting format. The City Commission, as some of you know, is transitioning. They have more and more people that wish to attend, commissioners that wish to attend in the meeting room. We don't have to do that. We can continue in this format if we're all comfortable with it. I would leave that up to you. As always, even for the last 2 months, you've had the option, like ETJ member Welch has taken advantage of appearing in person. I will say that if you are going to present or speak fairly often or regularly through the meeting, it's easier to see and understand you in the go-to-meeting format than it is in the meeting room. We have very good technology based on what's in the room. Our IT staff does a great job. Someday in the future when we have better technology, we might be able to mix and match a little better, but it seems right now it's almost a more workable solution to end up one way or another. but I'll kind of be asking for a nod from you all one way or another, which way you'd like to proceed in the coming months. The governor's executive order allows this format to continue at least through the end of this year. So if you want to comment now at all, I'd be happy to hear those thoughts, or if you just want to wait and respond individually to that email, I'd be fine with that also. But we're kind of between here a little bit.
Dave, Lynn Peterson.
Yes, Lynn.
Can you hear me? Could you go back to your TID discussion? Is there any way that you could put that into your TID discussion into an email and send it out to us? I think that's great information, and I think everybody would benefit if we can share that story more, and it'll make future TID discussions easier as we move forward, unless there's some reason that we shouldn't share it.
No, it's public information, and Al Virick, our finance officer, has prepared a spreadsheet that shows those numbers. I'd be happy to PDF you all a copy of that spreadsheet. It's pretty basic and simple with only 5 columns and a few rows, but it tells a pretty powerful story. You're right, and I'd be happy to do that. I'll get that out tomorrow.
Thank you.
Just follow up on that comment would that worksheet or the metrics also reflect the period of time of which maybe there are no taxes coming in, and then how that would be offset over the life of the TID?
So it doesn't go that far into it, but of course there would be a window where now for the coming years, where we're going to be making up for taxes on a much lower value that we wouldn't have been getting. So, the difference in the city, for example, between the original base value taxes at $1,100 and the average city improvements at $2,700 is what you would be talking about, Mike. You can't really compare it to what it would have been without the TID, because that would be another variable involved. And so you can't call it lost taxes or missing taxes unless you just do the comparison between the equalized base back when it started and the average city gain. You can't say it was lost taxes by comparing the equalized base and what we're getting now, because we wouldn't have had those to begin with. So there's a very simply complicated answer to your question, Mike, because there'd be a lot of people that would argue, well, we missed out on all those taxes. Well, no, you didn't, because the development wouldn't have occurred without it. You missed out on a minor gains. So you could figure a couple $1,000s a year for 17 years. So the city lost out on $34,000 taxes in the life of the TID. However, now we're going to be getting $10,400 instead of $1,100, which means we're 3 years before we're, 3.5 years before we're to the positive. I mean, is a simple way to say that. So
That in itself.
Yeah. So 4 years from now, it's all gravy. It'll take 4 short years to get us back way ahead of where we were if it just would have increased at the average value of the community.
Thank you.
This is Bill. I think that that information, Mr. Mango, needs to be also addressed to the paper, to the newspapers, so that the public can understand that. I know over the last years that I've been on here, on this committee, whenever we talked about TIF, I always had questions from folks about that the city is at risk or they're giving up. And this is a prime example of why I really believe in those. And if I may, just as a parting comment, this will probably be my last meeting, because I think the reassignments will happen before next month. So I'd like to thank everybody for for the work over the years, and it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Technically, you're invited to the old business portion of the next meeting. So if you want to attend the first half of the meeting and vote on your vote, you're more than welcome.
I knew that, but I think I might be gone.
Shucks. Any thoughts about the format in coming months and how this is working? Is this terrible? Is this working for you?
This works really well for me, but again, not going forward, I don't know. I think this format, however, gives us a lot more direct information from the individual speaking. So that's just my parting shot on that.
My comment would be, considering it through the end of the year, as has been set up by apparently the state, for consideration, not knowing where we're going with some of the cases that we continue to see. One comment.
My comment is I think it's worked well for the meetings that we've had. If we have an item that is going to generate a significant amount of public comment or public input, I'm concerned that this format is not going to be the best way to receive and ask questions and go and handle that kind of an item. We haven't had one, so it's worked really well, I think, for what we've had on the agenda over the past couple months. So I have no problem going forward with this. And just note that if there's something significant that we're going to get a lot of public comment on, I think then it's not as effective.
I would totally concur with that, and that therein lies the dilemma also. If there's an item that's going to generate a lot of people to show up at a public hearing, we might want to change venues then also, because that meeting room isn't a place where we want to put 50, 80 people in either. If we have the Walmart rezoning where we're standing room only and people out in the parking lot, that's not a way to do business that we want to move forward with either. So it's going to be interesting, and we're going to have to balance things as we go.
Anybody else have any comments? Bruce, appreciate your service. You have always taken this seriously. You just have good observations and good comments on items, and hate to see you go, but thanks again for your service.
You're all welcome. Thank you.
Okay, I think we're done. Unless somebody has anything else they wish to add, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Peterson, so moved.
Second?
Erickson seconds.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mooney.
Mooney, aye.
Mooney, aye. Peterson.
Peterson, aye.
Peterson, aye. Erickson.
Erickson, aye.
Erickson, aye. Healy.
Healy, aye.
Healy, aye. Speck.
Speck had to leave the meeting about 5 minutes ago.
Okay. View.
View, aye.
View, aye. And Pierre.
Here, aye.
Pierre, aye.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Meeting's adjourned.